Hello and welcome to the Tent Podcast, that is to say, Thriving in Technology. Your hosts are Sam Moulton, Petra Stefanova, and Cecilia Taylor, all members of the influence marketing team here at NetApp. For this episode, we're excited to have longtime tech reporter Kate Russell joining us. Well known for her work on BBCClick, we had the pleasure of meeting Kate in Barcelona last November when she hosted NetApp Insight. Journalist, reporter, author, blogger, gamer, streamer, Kate has a lot going on in her life, and we can't wait to learn more. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today, Kate.
Oh, thank you for having me.
We are happy that you are here. We had such a enjoyable time with you in Barcelona, and I was so excited when you agreed to come on the show. And in preparation for that, I did a little snooping around, stalking, maybe even, and
In a totally non-creepy way.
yeah. And I have to say, I am blown away by all you've accomplished, all the different irons you have in the fire, all the different things you do. So I really wasn't sure how I wanted to begin, but let's just take a look at, how this whole conversation we're having today got started, our meeting backstage at NetApp Insight, and your ready engagement with the A team. You were just so gracious with them. And so you helped them, calm any nerves they might have had about, the event and that kind of thing. So tell us, what led you to hosting the event and what did you take away from that experience?
Oh yeah, do you know what? I'm always excited when I meet influencers. Certainly for the last I guess 5 years, more and more companies are asking me to speak at events about influencer marketing and about how they reach audiences, because I think we're beginning to see a fundamental shift in the way that you can advertise to people. People are much more likely to. I think they're 5 times more likely, according to research, to buy based on influence from a friend or a social media comment rather than from traditional forms of standard advertising. And with influencer marketing, what brands can do is they can harness the passion that exists within their own communities. And if they give a bit back, like you flew these guys from all over the world to be at the conference, that's the thing they get back. They get early access to information and eyes on technology before everybody else. That gives them credibility and currency in their world. So it's a real two-way street. And I just love meeting businesses and influencers who are doing that right, because I think it completely changes the dynamic of operating commercially in the world we live in, which has gone digital. And the future generations, they want that kind of interaction. I speak for universities as well, and I speak about the future student and Generation Z. They're going to expect an interactive kind of two-way communication with the bodies that they deal with, and everything's changing, and it's so refreshing to see it got right. And it certainly was. The enthusiasm backstage, all the crew at the NetApp event. Plus, we were in Barcelona, so what's not to be happy about?
Right. So I have to say, people in the that are listening to this podcast are going to think I wrote that segment for you, because it is exactly what I talk about when I'm trying to convince people to come on, to get on board with this program and support it. And it is, they really enjoyed you, and we had fun taking those photos, and maybe we'll even include a few in the blog post that hopefully I'm going to write. We're going to start a blog at some point here, but yeah.
And exactly. And I mean, we've had a follow-up, meeting and chat as well. I've spoken to some of them, and they are now working to think about pitching ideas for me to pitch to BBCClick. So that pays the relationship forward. This is good for everybody, because the way I, as a working freelance journalist, get access to stories is by having other people go out there and find them for me. I can't be on the doorsteps of every tech company and everybody who's doing everything in the world of tech. So I rely on my own network of, if you want to call them influencers, because they go out and they'll find stories through the daily kind of machinations. Like, for example, I was chatting with one of your influencers, about, or what are you interested in this week? And he said, his dad was looking at stuff about drones with the Heathrow Airport, on everything shut down at Heathrow Airport because of drones sighted around the airport. And from that, we're talking now about the possibility of him going away and finding some ideas around drone technology to bring to me. So this is great for me. It's good for him because it gives him exposure, and then it pays back to NetApp because one of NetApp's influencers is getting broader exposure. So this is the ecosystem that we live in, people. And if you know how to play it right, and that involves supporting each other, working together, not seeing everybody as competition, but actually seeing them as collaborators, and then we can all forge ahead together.
Well, I am thrilled to be one of your PRs, as you call them. And
Yeah, exactly.
so
Unpaid PRs, it's brilliant.
yeah, and I agree with everything you're saying. And the A team has a number of members from the UK, and they're all big fans of BBCClick. So it would be a huge win if we could tie those two things together. And for
Yay.
those in our audience who don't know about BBC Click, it is the BBC TV show covering consumer technology, and it's all about futures and all the new cool things. And so I have to ask you, what's it like to travel all over the world covering stories about future and sometimes what I would kind of interpret as like kind of scary technologies?
Well, before I answer that question, I should just clarify. I just want to roll back on, because obviously this is a podcast. It's going out to people. That influencer relationship and coverage, that there still comes on top of that full due diligence. I am a working reporter for the BBC. I'm a credible expert in my field of knowledge, and so when people pitch stories to me, even if I've met them and consider them my influencers, I still do full editorial due diligence about whether or not it's a good story, if it's a balanced story. I'm not doing promotional puff pieces for anybody. I just want to clarify that, because people do like to sit there and go, oh, what's going on there then? But it's just a good way to work, is to actually work with other people towards your common goals. What's it like working for the BBC? Do you know what is amazing? I'm next month I'm going to Japan for 5 days to we'll be looking, not only do we get to go to Japan and film, but we will also be given access, because of our credibility and our standing in broadcast globally. The BBC's got a very good name, so we always get the most incredible access to the most cutting edge stories, and we get to see and try things and put our hands on things long before everybody else, and it's really exciting stuff. So it's just thrilling, and I feel so incredibly lucky. I sometimes worry that they're going to realize that I would do it without being paid. But also, there is a tremendous responsibility to our audience, because we are the public service broadcaster, and we are watched by so many people, and plus social media gives our audience incredible access to us for feedback. And also, a majority of our audience are actually probably more technically knowledgeable than me. So, there's a tremendous pressure to get it right. And when you get it wrong, then there's obviously a lot of pressure on you to respond and correct as well. But it's a challenge. I love the challenge. I love the pace of working in, you said in your introduction all the different things that I do, and that's what I love about my life, being freelance and having a number of different aspects to my, what we call a portfolio career, I guess you'd say. That's what keeps me alive, is that change, and that constant sort of striving to understand more and expand into the world is what really, I think, is at the core of what drives me.
So, Kate, first of all, I'm a huge fan of Click, and the fact that I'm speaking to you right now, it's like a dream come true. You just mentioned you're going to Japan, which happens to be one of my favorite countries. I call it the Wonderland, because it's so scary and wonderful at the same time. So definitely excited to see what you're going to find out in Japan, and what's the most exciting tech coming out of there, whether it's going to be a robot or who knows, like a new dating app. There's so many things going on in Japan, you never know. But let's talk a little bit about your other side of you. You mentioned you wear a lot of hats, and I think it's pretty cool. Like it seems like you have 6 different Kates, or maybe more, living inside of you. So well, I would love to talk a little bit about the streamer Kate Click, if you don't mind.
Yes.
I know you're very passionate about gaming, and we all techies a little bit of a nerds and we love geeky stuff. So tell us a little bit about, first of all, Twitch, and a little bit about the platform. Maybe some of our audience don't know what Twitch is, and how did you become a partner Twitch streamer? What do you love about streaming? A little bit what you're
Sure. Well,
passionate
Twitch.
about.
So Twitch is, I guess, if you're not familiar with the platform, it's like YouTube. And in fact, YouTube is trying to be Twitch now. But Twitch is an online streaming platform where anybody with a webcam and an internet connection can, or even just a microphone and an internet connection, you don't have to be on camera, can broadcast to the world. You get your Twitch account, and then people can tune in, and people can come and watch you free, and just participate. They chat in the sidebar and watch what you're doing. But they can also subscribe if you become partnered. And to become partnered, you just have to show a level of growth throughout a period of time, and you apply to become a partner. And being a partner means you get a revenue share on the $5 a month subscription that people pay. They want the extra benefits of being part of your community, and also the advertising revenue from the adverts that are played within the platform. YouTube are trying to do it now. We're seeing more live stuff on YouTube. YouTube tends to be a bit more of when you watch something popular and you look at the chat, it's quite toxic. There's a lot of people there, and there are a lot of random people. It's, YouTube attracts all sorts of people for all sorts of reasons. Generally, people go to Twitch because they want to watch people playing games, because that's how the platform started. There are now a creative channel, there's an IRL channel, there's a social eating channel, would you believe, where people literally just sit on their webcam and eat their dinner and chat with people, which is kind of weird but fun. But yeah, it's massively growing in popularity. I think particularly, we spoke about Generation Z, the younger generation who are just starting university now. They come from a much more interactive world, and I think their demands of their entertainment are, they don't want to be a passive receiver of just information through their eyes. They don't want to sit and watch television. They actually want to engage with other people. When I'm streaming, there'll be all of the regulars will be chatting to each other in the stream. They'll in the chat box beside the stream, they'll be chatting to me, and I'll occasionally talk to one of them, or occasionally look over at the chat. But generally, if I'm gaming, I kind of concentrating on the game, and they chat amongst themselves. But it's a much more social thing. There's a lot of people who live on their own, myself included, and if I was just sitting watching television at night, it would just be me and my cats. But if I'm watching a stream, there's a whole bunch of people that I've known for years that I can just chat with in the sidebar at the same time. So it's incredibly fun and fulfilling for me. Also, I've been really lucky to build a fantastic community, a small but powerful community around my stream, and they support me in anything that I do. So I've run 2 Kickstarters, which pretty much have been launched and then run through my Twitch stream. I've raised £24,000 across those 2 Kickstarters to help finance the publication of 2 of my novels. So I've got a science fiction and a sci-fi that are now in audiobook, and regular book basis, through a publisher. Because of that, they've also in the last 3 years helped me raise over £40,000 for a charity that I do. We run charity streams. Over Christmas every other year, I'll do 12 days of Christmas, and every day I'll stream, and we'll have a goal, and I'll get giveaways. All my tech PR companies send me giveaways, so we have a nice sort of festive thing over Christmas, streaming for 4 hours a day, and regularly raise 7,000 or 8,000 pounds for that brilliant charity. And over 4 years or so, I think probably close to £40,000 my followers directly involved in my stream have helped raise for Special Effect, who are a wonderful charity who help people with physical disabilities keep playing games.
It reminds me a little bit about what we have here, just generally in the tech community. For instance, what Sam is doing with A-Team. I work with similar program called NetApp United. It's all about creating that sense of community, so to speak. Even if you don't meet people, you have a connection with them, and you create that sense of belonging. Is it similar to what you have with your
Exactly. I mean, it comes back to this whole influencer marketing thing as well, right? that in my own right, within that community, I've created my own community of influence, and them being an elevated role within that community by participating actively, helping to promote things, raising that gives them elevated status within their community. So we're all kind of resting on each other's shoulders in many respects. But it's all about community online. That's what I think. That's why I get so excited when I see companies who get it. It's not, online isn't a mouthpiece to shout at people about what you do. It's not like traditional advertising, or it's not like traditional marketing, outreach, PR, whatever you want to call it. It's about community. I see so many organizations using social media in a really unsocial way, and nothing makes me happier than when I'm chatting about a brand in a jokey way, like we were joking about Marmite on my Twitter feed the other day, and then Marmite pipes up. I think I actually saw. Oh no, that's right. And then I saw a sort of a meme of a guy who's being interviewed for the news, and a Greg's bakery bag has just blown completely across his face. And somebody shared that, and I was like, oh, I bet the Greg's bakery PR executive is off camera, sort of like rubbing their hands with glee. And then before you know it, Greg's bakery is a big bakery in the UK, big bakery chain. They tweet back going, it took us 6 attempts to get that right. So it's kind of that kind of social interaction for me is really what being part of the digital community is all about.
You never know when bad advertising campaign is going to backfire, or where a free PR opportunity is going to come up. Yeah. So it sounds like you're very passionate about your Twitch community. Just to go a little bit back on the not so positive things about social community, I think we all face different challenges, whether it's some toxic relationship on Facebook, or everyone's familiar with YouTube trolling and all sorts of social media trolling.
Yeah,
I've found across. So it seems like recently there has been a lot in the media about a little bit of a gender bias it's unspoken in the Twitch community. There's quite a lot of female gamers, and a lot of generally female streamers, but there seems to be like a unspoken bias. So without putting words in your mouth, I just really want to know, because as someone who's completely outside the community, what it really is like to be a female streamer. What is your experience? And maybe give a few tips to young gamers, whether girls or boys out there who are considering going to streaming, like a few tips.
Sure. I mean, this kind of extends to the broader sort of the broader notion that girls get treated badly, in online gaming communities. And in my 35 years of experience, I started gaming in 1984. I've been an avid online gamer, actively participating in competitive, clan structures, probably since the mid 90s. And it's been a huge part of my life. And in my entire life of gaming, I have only ever once had a problem with somebody who has been gender-based, and this guy took it way too far and started trying to interfere with my real life, because I don't know what was wrong with him. He just had this grudge. Maybe it was jealousy or whatever. Maybe I didn't give him the attention that he felt that he deserved. But he went basically postal, and do you know what I did? I didn't talk about it at all. I phoned the police. And I said, this is happening, and they came and they dealt with it. And I think that's one of the problems that we have with the bad reputation that the treatment of women has in gaming is, yes, there's been a massive imbalance in years gone by. Of course, I grew up as the only girl gamer, in when I was working for games magazines, writing reviews in 95. I was the only female in the office, it's true, but that's changed. And I was reading one article about this Twitch streamers you won't hear about because they're female. And they open the article with a statement that says women are a huge minority in gaming. Well, according to the latest numbers from the UK, which is the UK entertainment industry, from 2017, of the 32.4 million gamers in the UK, making us the 5th largest gaming market in the world, 48% are women. right? I mean, yes, you can find environments where it's mostly men. If you go to certain Call of Duty servers or, first person shooter servers where, there's this kind of, you've got this locker room kind of mentality, you can find isolated gaming communities that are all, young testosterone fueled men. But for the vast majority of gamers, we're social gamers, we're casual gamers, and we're very, very diverse. My community is incredibly diverse. They range from age 12 up to 70. I've got at least 3 transgender lovely ladies in my community. I've got lots of people who from different cultures and different backgrounds. And we're all men, women. Some of us are shy, some of us are gregarious, some of us are, we are the mishmash of human nature that exists in the world. And I think it's so unfortunate because the mainstream media, it survives by getting you to click on headlines. And the way you get someone to click on a headline is you make it a headline that's shocking or exciting or engaging. And unfortunately, bunch of diverse gamers have a lovely evening on a Friday evening and nothing bad happened is not going to get headline clicks, right? The stories that get headline clicks are, oh, girl was treated incredibly badly, rape threats, this threat, blah, blah, blah. Well, yes, sometimes you'll go onto a server and somebody who's being competitive with you will start trying to break you down verbally, nerval at you, needle you, try and find the thing that makes you bite. And, for me, that's not being a woman. You can say, oh, you play like a girl. Fine. I play like a girl because I am a girl and I'm going to kick your butt. So, it doesn't faze me. But some people react badly to that, and then that's they've got their trigger, they've got the thing that they can nerval you on, and unfortunately, a small minority of what I'm going to call quite contrarily, I'm going to call them career victims. They make money out of writing 3-page spreads for the Guardian about how awful it is being a woman in technology, but that's not my experience, and it's not the experience for everybody that I know. One of my beautiful friends has started to get a single person coming into their Twitch stream and just being, aggressive and horrible. But hey, do you know what? You can mute that person, and that's one person. And unfortunately they started trying to, make secondary accounts and then come in again. And so that's why it even caught our attention, because this one person was persistently trying to upset Nats. But after half a dozen bans, they run out of email addresses. They can't sign up for any more accounts. And, well, there you go. It's, and you've got to feel sorry for somebody like that. You've just spent 10 minutes, like we blocked you from the channel. So you've just spent 10 minutes getting yourself a new email address, and just to come in and get blocked again, like one sentence later. It's like it says more about how you spend your life and what you've got that's important in your life, that that you can spend time doing that. That says more about him than it does about anybody else.
Well, all I can say, it's really refreshing to hear that diversity is right there. And I think at the end of the day, toxic people come in all different shapes and
They do, and particularly in gaming, because if you're being competitive with somebody, they're going to run through, if they're that kind of person, they're going to run through the gamut of things that they think they can pick on until they hit the one that gets a rise from you. Because when they've got a rise from you, then you're not performing at your peak. It's as simple as that. And it's just a strategy, and you just need to use the big old internal mute button. And I think the more people run around, the fringes of the mainstream media, perpetuating this sort of myth that women are the minority, and that we're treated dreadfully everywhere we go, because unfortunately that puts parents off letting their girls play games, so in some ways it holds us back in that respect. But honestly, I have no reason to lie about this, but I'm a 50-year-old gamer who's been gaming, seriously for at least 30 years, and only once have I ever had to deal with somebody who had some kind of obsessive problem about my gender.
Different track, but let's look back at Insight again for a moment. You joined us for the Women in Technology Luncheon and Panel, and we'd like to thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. It was really, really actually lovely to be at an event like that without having a role as well. Because normally when I'm at a women in tech event, I've got, speaking to do, or some kind of official role. But it was really nice to actually just sit back and enjoy the talks and enjoy the discussion, and enjoy the chat around the table as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. One of the panelists, Barb Hardy, NetApp's global head of diversity, inclusion, and belonging, she created something she calls the Barb list, which are tips for achieving your personal and professional goals. And prior to recording this podcast, we shared that list with you ahead of time. Can you tell us what resonated in that list that you saw and why?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it really made me happy to see that it was non-gendered, right? I mean, those things work for anybody. But I know it was written, to help improve diversity, and they all really resonated with me a lot. But the one that I think particularly sort of shines for me is lift as you climb. And I think we can sometimes forget that. Maybe particularly as women, that it seems to be more of a bro code in business that they work together, teamwork to get to the top. Whereas I think a lot of women can see can feel threatened by other women in similar lines of work. I know that I've mentored quite a few now young female technology journalists and personalities and people who want to be on TV. And they're always a bit shocked and surprised that, like Georgie Barrett is a perfect example. She presents Channel 5's Gadget Show. She got in touch with me. She said, look, I've just started in this industry. I'd love to pick your mind. And I said, yeah, let's meet for a drink. And I'm happy to share any and all resources. And she was like, I think she was a bit taken aback. She was like, oh, most people wouldn't do this. Most people feel a little bit, that they want to sort of protect their income and their empire, if you like, and another female technology presenter is a threat. But I don't see it that way. I literally don't have enough days in my diary to do all of the speaking jobs that I'm invited to do, and do all of the education jobs, and go to all of the women in tech meetings. And for me, the ideal situation would be for there to be more people like me available. I mean, I love going around and doing the events and stuff, but I've got books to write as well. I've got other things that I want to do. And I think if you always remember to lift people as you climb, because the other thing is those people will go on as you branch off. I remember early in my TV career, and I worked with sort of young producers. We did this thing called .tv on Sky, which was kind of low budget. We were producing 5 hours a day of original programming about technology. And it lasted for a couple of years, and we were a lot of rookies all in it together, because the pay wasn't that great and there weren't that many people watching it. It was a bit of a trial for Sky to see if it would work. Even today, years on, I get emails or messages from people that I haven't seen for 15 years, who I used to work with on such and such a production, and they say, hey, I'm working for Channel 4 now, I'm doing this thing, this job came up and we think you'd be perfect for it, are you available? So if you lift people as you go up, then when you sort of separate and go off in your own ways, they'll continue on a trajectory, hopefully in line with yours, and you may have the opportunity to connect later on in life, and for them to help you, or vice versa. So I think an ally is a much stronger, much better thing than an enemy. And why wouldn't you want your allies to be climbing at the same speed as you?
And yet that brings up another item on the Barb list, which is that relationships matter. And for me, that's huge. That's the one that I really think is the secret of what I do in terms of influence marketing, right? And you're sharing examples of 15 years later, you're still hearing from people you worked with back then. So clearly, you're doing a good job of that as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. I mean, I hope so. I love people too, though, and I've got this mad enthusiasm and positivity for technology. I hear a lot of You know, a lot of people knock technology or blame technology for this, that, or the other. And I sort of am the self-appointed voice of positivity around technology. Sometimes, you know, sometimes people step in and say you should be a bit more of a realist. And I'm like, fair enough. You know, I appreciate that and I understand your point of view. And actually, you know, that's your job then, isn't it? You know, I think there needs to be balance, and I do the voice of positivity well, and I love sharing the benefit and the joy that I've had through technology with people who know less about technology. You know, I think that's my gift, if you like. The thing that I was put into the world to do was to assuage people's fears of technology and help them, you know, obviously with a sensible amount of common sense in terms of personal protection. But you know, my grandmother is 96 now, and she lives alone in that sounds really sad. It's not a sad story, this is a happy story. She lives alone in the house that she's lived in for the last 50 years, because she has the internet and she's able to use it to order food to be delivered. Her home cares come in twice a day. She stays in touch with us on Facebook, and you know, sort of we stay in touch through text messages. But the only reason that she has, and of course she gets visitors regularly as well, but the only reason she has the independence to continue living in the house that she shared with her husband for 50 years is because she has the internet and she knows how to use it. So, you know, for that, and unfortunately, when you get to an age where you start needing the resources that are online, it's too late to start learning then, right? Because you've already got a whole load of other stuff going on in your life that needs your focus and attention. So I think it's really important, particularly for people, you know, sort of in that sort of, I don't know, my age bracket, you know, and up to about, you know, 70 or whatever, who's still fully compos mentis and, you know, sort of fully active. You know, now's the time to get down with technology and to understand how to use it and feel comfortable with it. And the only way to do that is to use it regularly. There's a little old lady who's moved now, but she lived at the end of our street. And I got her online when her family moved to, when her son moved to Australia, and got her, you know, helped her set up an iPad. And I became her iPad tech support. She'd come round whenever there was a red notification. She'd just knock on the door and go, it's not working. But, you know, for her, and that was the disappointing thing, is she would use it so infrequently. So I'd sit down and give her a lesson. She'd be like, oh, yes, I remember it all now. And then she wouldn't use it for a month. Then she'd go back to it and she'd be, oh, I can't remember. I think you need to find something that interests you enough to use it regularly enough for it to become muscle memory, you know, for you not to forget how to do things. Like when I have to reformat a hard drive because, you know, the computer's all crunched up, I have to go online and look up how to do that because I only do it every 3 years or so. So of course I don't remember how to do it, like step by step. But the basic things like using email, using social media, using online shopping, stuff like that, if you can use it regularly enough, then it becomes second nature. And then when you need it, when you're in a situation where you can't leave the house and be more independent and travel, then you already have those skills just sort of, you know, happening automatically. So I think that's really important. I've rambled on. I think I've gone completely off topic, haven't I, on that one?
Well, actually, I think that's all very useful, and I want everyone to know that I have the online shopping down pat. So as I get older, I'm not going to have any problem with that.
Yeah, but you work for NetApp, so I would expect you to.
True.
But, you know, there are people whose parents, you know, maybe work in a greengrocers or, you know, there are people that for whatever reason have not had daily interaction with technology still, particularly in those age groups. And I would urge you, if you know anyone like that, just take the time to help them fall in love a little bit with technology, because it will make their lives so much easier when they start to become less mobile. And if you're a direct family member, it'll make your life easier too, because you won't have to worry about them as much. You know, you'll have a way to stay in touch.
So tell us, what do you think is next up for you on the personal and professional front?
Well, so I'm going to Japan in February for 5 days with Click. I've also got I do this wonderful event at Euro Disney called Euro Study Tours, where we get 800 school kids in one of the big auditoriums there, and we give them a morning of lectures about sort of digital entrepreneurship, basically to prepare them to start thinking about life beyond A levels and what they might do for work and stuff. And then they go off and play in the amusement park for the afternoon, and so do I. So I've got two of those next month, and then in March I'm off to Madrid for 5 days to host a travel tech conference called T3CH. So lots and lots going on work-wise. I want to get started on my next book. I need more females to speak at events and do what I do, so I can clear up some time in my diary and get on with my next book. That's a big plan. And then one of the big negatives of traveling with work is you do end up overeating a lot, because you go down with the best intentions in the world to have sort of porridge and fruit for breakfast, but then you've got this sort of like the all you can eat fried buffet just sitting there, and you're just like, it's so hard not to just have everything. And then of course Christmas, so I've got about a stone in weight to lose. I did try doing a random potato diet, which I reported on Twitter. Everyone was very interested. Reported my eating only potatoes for a week on Twitter. Newsflash, it doesn't work. I only lost 1 kilogram in a week, which, to be honest, I can lose, just sort of cutting out sugar and alcohol for a week and doing a bit more exercise. So only eating potatoes for an entire week with no fat, just a bit of seasoning, was an interesting experience.
It does not sound like a pleasant experience. But
no, so I need that personal goal. I need to lose that weight, and I'm actually just trying to reboot my. I've got a Fitbit Ultra HR, which I've been trying to get to sync with my phone all afternoon, because I've decided, right, I'm going to go on another fitness spree. But at the moment, my Bluetooth is giving me stress, so I'm not really sure how to fix that. That's on my immediate to-do list, is to try to figure out how to get my Fitbit reconnected with my phone after not using it for about 6 months.
Well, I can top that. I bought a Fitbit, I think maybe 2 years ago, and I haven't taken it out of the box yet. So,
that's like they say that the gym memberships are the most unused purchase of especially in January.
I've done that too. Anyway,
brilliant.
So it's 2019. And you are, in tune with all the things that are happening from a consumer technology standpoint. What do you think is going to happen? What are we going to see this year that's going to be exciting, or maybe not so exciting?
I don't think we're going to see anything fundamentally new coming through in the next year, but I think we're going to see a massive increase, or a continued massive increase, in the use of voice assistants. Smart speakers. And because of that, because people are becoming more familiar with using these smart speakers, like I'm not going to say her name because she's sitting behind me, but the one from Amazon, and also there's one from Google who's also sitting behind me, so I'm going to keep silent on both those fronts. But the thing that has given us at the moment, there's so many things for your smart home, right? There's Wi-Fi light bulbs, there's your thermostat, heating thermostat. I've got a fire alarm, or a smoke detector thing. What else have I got? I've got cameras, inside and outside cameras, and lights in all the rooms, and all these different things that you've got. And in order to control all of those, actually, a phone with loads of different apps, you've got to open up a different app for every single one. That's been holding the smart home integration market back, I think. And now voice assistants are so massively used. The natural language processing technology has improved in leaps and bounds the last 2 years. It's gone from a 25% error rate to a less than 8% error rate, which is much more manageable in terms of being understood by your devices. So it allows you to control all of these smart home devices just through a voice interface. And that's really interesting, because that makes the whole idea of smart home technology much more accessible to people who are not very sort of technically minded. So I think we're going to see much more of that, and that was evident in there was the coverage that we did from CES this year on Click. It was very evident. Everything was smart home, everything was voice activated, or voice controlled. So we're going to see it in radios. There was a study, car radios. There was a study that showed that in-car radio, they filmed or studied people using in-car radios, and they looked away from the road when retuning to a station that they hadn't previously tuned or saved as favorite. When they were using a touchscreen, they looked away from the road 14 times. When they were using voice, they looked away from the road twice. So there are massive safety implications of some of this technology beginning to be adopted into mainstream. And when we start seeing, your car sold with that technology, and you becoming familiar using that technology, it goes back to what I was saying before about, it's this muscle memory, the familiarity. If we get used to using something, then it becomes an integral part of other parts of our lives. I have the voice assistants here, and I'm always now, when I'm in a hotel room, I'll always be like, I can't even say her name because she's going to shout, but I always say lights out when I'm lying in bed, and then I realize, oh no, I've got to push the button because I'm not at home. So it's I think that for me is going to be the main trend, is just in terms of consumer trend, in a deeper sense, we're going to see the ethics of AI. When we're talking about on a more businessy side, we're going to see the ethics of AI and its implications and uses, and the impact of AI bias as well, because of course any AI, any collection of data is only as good as the people who input it, and ultimately those were humans. There was a great example that IBM showed me, illustrating AI bias, and that is, they put a photograph of, there was a man who was recognized by this sort of, recognize your face and says what gender, what age, and what potential profession you are. And they put a man's photograph in, and then he was an executive, middle-aged executive, middle 50s executive. And then they turned him sideways, and it thought he was a 24-year-old hairdresser. Just because of the different composition of the picture. So when you start thinking about that, the computers aren't yet intelligent enough to understand the background context of what they've been given necessarily to be 100% reliable. And we see Cambridge Analytica, the problems that happened around the US election of 2016, and then Brexit, and the influence that was attempted to be levied because of data that was collected and given collected by Facebook and given to Cambridge Analytica. And Facebook now have actually literally just announced that they are investing €7.5 million, I think it might be, into a foundation in a university in Germany, which is actually looking at it's going to be the AI Ethical Center or something, or the Center of AI Ethics. And these are all questions from a business sense as we begin to collect more and more data, and there is more and more available to us, and more intimate data as well, as we're all wearing Fitbits, and we're carrying things around on us that give our constant location, our state of general health. There's all sorts of information now being used or being collected. So how is it, we need to decide what's right to do with that. Like, for example, if everybody in a city is wearing a Fitbit, we could use that in town planning. We could see, which are the routes that people take? What are the roads that are going to need to be repaired first? How can we restructure the town's layout in order to make life more convenient or time effective for the people who are using that town? There's there's really good things that can come out of access to that data. Does this mean that we should routinely expect the data from our personal wrist, body attached trackers to be made available to government bodies or, planning authorities or whatever? I don't know. There's a lot of ethical issues that need to be thought through in this field of AI. And I think that this is going to be a big theme of the next year as well.
Well, I'm glad that it's, that they're going to be looking into this, because it's the good with the bad, right? We want to see
exactly.
we want to see the progress, but these are things that are worrisome, and it's good to know that there are groups looking into this. That example you provided about the photo, that's pretty concerning.
Yeah. But then, at the same token, you've got to look at all the positives that are possible from it. So, there are certain people who would look at that story and be fearful. It's another reason not to trust technology. And unfortunately, the media organization, the mainstream media, that will be the story that they cover.
Right.
They won't cover all the many incremental good things about that branch of technology, that we need to be careful that we don't throttle by over-regulating or, sort of creating any barriers to innovation and development within that field. So it's a really careful balancing act.
And that's where you come in, right? I mean, you can
Exactly.
you can shape a story so that you are presenting the positive, and as well as touching on the negative, of course. The balance. We look to you for
Exactly.
balance, Kate.
Yes, exactly. And that's what I love about Click, because we're not hardcore news, although we do have a news kind of ethic behind what we do, because we sit as part of the BBC World Service, sort of news channel. But we have a much more, I guess, speculative outlook, I guess you'd say. And it does mean the opportunity is there to do many more positive stories than there are negative stories. So, although we do sometimes blow negative stories out of the, blow certain claims that certain product manufacturers make, and we've done that a few times, and we always have to step very carefully because we don't want to get sued. But there is that, on occasion we've also been able to say, do you know what, this person is saying this about their product and it's not true, and we've proved it. So we do that too, but it's less frequent than the nice fluffy stories about the wonderful things there are in technology.
I was listening to you as you were talking, and I was thinking of our lovely friends whose names shall not be mentioned, so that they will not wake up.
Yeah.
Because I too have one of
Yes.
those behind us, and I do find that using it has been very, very convenient for me, and I think that will only improve, especially as language processing uh, evolves, so that she understands what I'm saying, she or he, depending on the voice assistant. Um, but one of the
Yeah. But this is why diversity is important as well, because at the moment, a lot of the sort of product manufacturing, testing, and research and development teams are all middle-aged white males. And these devices are known to have a problem with,
Mhm.
cultural accents, regional accents. They understand men better than they do women. So this is another reason why it's really important that we get a good representation of every kind of person with every kind of voice working in these kinds of places.
Absolutely, I completely agree. We always tend to ask a bonus question, if you will, on our podcasts, and it's one that we usually don't send over, so that we don't give you any time to prepare for it.
I know, I saw that on the brief. I'm
Um,
excited.
and this question actually is something that I was really impressed by. And I don't know if you've heard it or you followed it online, but there's been quite a lot of discussion since at the beginning of the year. Netflix released a series with Marie Kondo about tidying up with Marie Kondo, and she has a
Oh, right. Yes.
KonMari
Okay.
method
Yeah.
of cleaning up and getting
Yes.
your house in order. But as I was thinking about that, I was thinking about the mindfulness of things and how we identify, the things that bring us joy. And that, when we find something that doesn't bring us joy, that we need to find a way to part with those things. I think that it not just for
Yeah.
physical things, but I think in our digital lives, and there are things that we can do that help us to be more mindful of what we're doing and how we live and function. What do you think?
Yeah.
Just keeping with this analogy, what do you think there are things that we can do to clear out our digital lives so that we continue to find happiness and joy?
Oh, interesting. Do you know what? When I look around me now, I have so many pieces of technology, with so many methods of communication with the outside world, and they all have apps and notifications. And my friends are always stunned when they see my phone, because I literally have hundreds of unviewed notifications on every single app. My friends are constantly frustrated by me because they'll send me, and they'll tend, if they want to get in touch with me urgently, they'll contact me across 4 different mediums. There'll be a message on Twitter DMs, there'll be a message on WhatsApp, there'll be a message on Facebook. In the hope that I happen to look at one of them within a time frame, because I'm not addicted to checking up on messages, and maybe it's partly because I'm always so focused on what I'm writing or a bit of research that I'm doing or a game that I'm playing, that I tend not to sort of be constantly grabbing and checking my phone. And if I see a notification on my, he's got this sort of list of things, oh, there's so many notifications on that app or whatever. Honestly, it doesn't bother me. I just leave it. And that's given me a lot of peace from this sort of technology addiction, I think. And also it's given me a slightly different relationship with my friends, in that they don't just have this expectation that I will instantly answer them, whenever they have a message for me. And if they really, really want to speak to me urgently, they can pick up the phone and call me. That's kind of, at the end of the day, I am a digital citizen, but I'm not glued to watching for mentions of my name on communications apps. And I'll sometimes go days without looking at them. So if you need me urgently, give me a call. And I think that's really helpful. I think if you can't do that, and I think if you just, and there are apps that will help you do this as well. Rescue Time's a great one. I think it's important to make sure that there are periods during your week or during your day that you're not being constantly barraged by incoming communications, that there isn't a temptation to check how many likes you've had on this post, or check what the latest happening is. At the moment I'm a little bit obsessed with following the US political scene. I'm sure you can understand why. And it would be really easy to sort of like just go, or just have a look at the quick headlines, or what's he tweeted today, or stuff like that. And I think you need to carve out time in your work day, ideally once a day, maybe 2 or 3 hours, where you're not connected, that you just sit down, get head down and get on with stuff. And also the other thing that, and this was, I can't remember who said it, I think it might even have been at your event, but somebody said this to me. Do you have a to-do list? Like all of you all have to-do lists,
Yeah,
right? Cecilia,
definitely.
Sam, Pet?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm actually trying to move away from a to-do list, but keep going.
Okay, well, I love my list. I have a to-do list. Do you have a to think about
That I
list?
can say I definitely do not have.
Huh.
See, this is, and I think it was so we were talking about entrepreneurial traits and attitudes, and if you're just doing the things that you need to do, and if you're sort of, if you fill your time so thoroughly with doing the stuff that you need to do, when are you ever going to get the chance to think about how you progress? When are you ever going to get the chance to just look at the bigger picture and say, where am I going with this? How do I get to the next level that I want to get to? And you need to make time for that, especially if you're busy. Like me as a freelancer, I'm busy. There's always something I can be doing, like all weekend. And I'm bad for it, actually, because generally Saturday and Sunday, the first thing I'll do when I sit down with my coffee is I'll go through my emails. And I know people who engage me for work who email me on the weekend as well. So there's no 2-day weekend for me, but I do make sure that I get a couple of hours every day where I'm not kind of glued to technology, and that I do take time to think about, what the next story I want to write is, or what the next package I want to do, or just to do a bit of research on a random topic that I haven't ever looked at before, and see if it sparks any ideas. And I think people make the mistake, particularly successful people, they reach a level of success and they become so busy that they forget about progression. They forget that, not necessarily for the money, but, for a lot of people, myself included, if I get too good at something and I'm doing it all the time, no matter, you could be paying me £200,000 a year, it's a great job, but I'm doing the same thing every day and I'm really, really good at it. I'm the best I am at it. And there is no way for me to get better and no way for me to advance doing that thing. Well, it's not going to be long before I want a change. So you need to make sure that you give yourself time to think about how you change, how you progress, and how you grow every day. And I think that's a really healthy work-life balance as well. Work-life future balance. So you need your life. Make sure you family time, friend time, whatever, away from work time. Good amount of work time, but then a good amount of thinking about the future as well.
I think this is excellent advice. Definitely food for thought. I have written on the to-do list that I'm trying to move away from. I'm trying to do something called time blocking, but I
Mm.
have listed things like investigate such and such. And, the sad thing is that I don't usually get to those things. They keep,
You never do them
right,
because they're on your to-do list, and
right,
there's always a do that's ahead of them.
right. There's always a have to do or a perceived have to do. And so
Yeah.
I think that maybe in the future, I'm going to be time blocking for forward thinking.
Yes, there you go. Brilliant. I love it. I'll have to look into. That's probably going to be my next thing that I'll randomly research is time blocking, because it sounds like that might be right up my street.
Well, that's excellent. I've never thought in terms of thinking of it that way and thinking of taking that time to plan not just work life, but future balance. So, uh,
Mm.
I will say your ability to leave all those little red circles on your phone did
I
give me a
know.
little anxiety, a little my palms are a little sweaty about that. But my husband's like you. I'll say to him, "Oh my God, John, you've got 95 Facebook notifications." He says, "So?" It's like, oh,
I know.
okay. And he, he's like always complaining. Well, geez, nobody's following me on Twitter. Well, John, you actually have to engage with people. You have to tweet. So he gets super excited if he gets like one or two new followers. But anyway, yeah, I really.
I think I get it from, it runs in the family, because my little brother, I saw him a couple of weeks ago, and I looked at his phone for some reason. He's got 5,000
Oh,
unanswered text messages on his
oh
phone.
boy.
Now that for me was over the top. I was just like, what? How do you even get that many? He's like, oh, I don't
He
know.
has a lot of friends apparently.
I think they're mostly work things, but
Oh
yeah.
boy.
But I love that he just doesn't pay any attention to his work colleagues.
That's yeah. Well, that might not work out for him, down the road. But good for him.
well, thank you, Kate. You have been such a wonderful guest. I could probably listen to you all day.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. We know you have other things going on, but we really appreciate the time you took to spend with us today.
Yeah, this was fun.
And to our listeners out there, we know you have a bunch of podcasts you could be listening to. So we appreciate the time you take to spend with us. We hope you will add us to your queue of must listen podcasts, and we'd love to hear your feedback. What works? What doesn't work so well? What would you like to hear about in our next episode? We encourage you to email us at ng-tentpodcast@netapp.com with your questions and your comments. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.